Hello, my name is Gavin McLaughlin, and I'm the head mentor here at Innumeris Education. To mark College Awareness Week, we're having a panel discussion with some of our mentors on basically college awareness and everything to do with it. So you're very welcome to watch our panel discussion. I'm going to introduce our speakers today, our very esteemed speakers. So I'll start with Kira Moore. Kira is an arts and humanities mentor here at Innumeris Education. She completed her postgraduate certificate in education at Queen's University Belfast, and then prior to becoming a qualified primary school teacher, Kira studied French and Modern Irish for 4 years in Trinity College Dublin. During this time, Kira was a member of Uncoming Gaelic. Kira also took part in many theatre productions with DU players. Outside of the college sphere, Kira was a dedicated member of Canterbury Avondale, an SATB choir based in the Department of Education. Kira believes every student should have the opportunity to learn languages and open their minds to other cultures through education. She appreciates the importance of having positive mentors and credits her achievements thus far to having incredible mentors within her family and educational community. I'll next move to Courtney Tunstead. Courtney is a health science mentor here at Innumeris Education, and she also functions alongside myself as the co-head mentor. Courtney is studying biomedical science in Maynooth University. In 2020, Courtney was awarded an academic scholarship through the Health Research Board, my apologies, and allowing her to progress through her dream of becoming an immunologist. Courtney has also acted as the bioscience academic representative, functioning as a link between staff and students over the course of 2019-2020. She was also an active member of the Maynooth University Women in STEM Society. Under Innumeris, Courtney aims to encourage students to strive for the life that they desire. Finally, our third speaker is Tegan Walsh. Tegan is a social science mentor here at Innumeris. She's a former student of Colashta Bridge in Clondalkin and is a current psychology student at Trinity College Dublin, where she progressed to third level education through the Trinity Access Programme, or TAP. During COVID-19, Tegan has guided current access students in choosing their future undergraduate courses, helping them build the bridge from secondary school to college. In previous years, she has met with the Minister for Education to address the need for better access to education. Being the first in her family to attend college, Tegan is a firm advocate for access to higher education. So these are our esteemed panel speakers today, and I'm delighted to have them with us today. Essentially, I'm going to put forward a number of questions to our speakers in relation to college awareness, and I'm going to let our speakers elaborate on them in turn. So the first question that I will ask, and we'll firstly go to Kira on this, is why did you choose to go to college or university rather than work or do an apprenticeship after sixth year?
Gavin, thanks so much for a lovely introduction. So I think I mainly chose to go to college. I'm the youngest of four siblings, and all my siblings had gone to college. Most of my cousins, or anyone in our a few of my cousins had gone to university, and it wasn't really the done thing for people to do apprenticeships. I had very little knowledge of them prior to going to college. We never had any open days for different apprenticeships that you could do around the place. It was more talking about university, so I was probably steered that way through school and through my family. So yeah, honestly, I just didn't have much information about apprenticeships, and I would have known a lot more about the college way of life.
And was there a reason that you decided to go straight into college as opposed to working for a year or taking a year out?
Yeah, there was definitely talks about it. I had always wanted to do primary teaching. As you said in my intro, I studied languages first. So I was kind of like, oh, should I go to teaching? Should I do languages? And I think at the end of the day, it just kind of came down to me saying, you know what, I'll just do it now, get it over and done with, and get started. I was possibly a little bit worried, and I'd say my parents were, that if I took a year out, I might never go back, or I might never go to college, which wouldn't have been all that terrible, but so far I've had good experiences from it. But yeah, I think that's mainly why. It was just try get in, probably just following the usual course of our lives, that a lot of young people just go straight to college, don't take the year.
Perfect. That's perfect. Thank you very much. So I'll next move to Courtney.
Why I went on to college rather than taking a year out or going on to an apprenticeship is that pretty much there was no really way to just start a science job or, go into anything really else to do with science without a degree. So I couldn't really go down any route without a degree. I'm actually the opposite to Kira. I'm the eldest of five So I was trying to kind of guide them in the right direction as well, and kind of show them that if I could make it, that they would be able to follow suit as well. But yeah, really, really glad that I went to college now. I was a little bit scared at first. I remember, being really, really, everything was really daunting at the time, and it was just a bit scary. But yeah, I'm really glad that I went that route at the end, because same as you, Kira, I don't think if I had taken a year out, I don't think I would have gone back.
Very good, thank you. And then I'll finally move to Tegan. So Tegan, the same question. Why did you choose to go to college or university rather than work or do an apprenticeship after 6th year?
I would have to agree with the girls in saying that I was worried that if I did take a year out and I did work, that I wouldn't go back. Because I find even having gotten a part-time job in college, it's really hard for me. Like when you're getting your paycheck, it's, when you're doing an undergrad degree, you're working towards, 4 years later in Trinity, it's 4 years for the undergrad. So you're working towards, that certificate that you feel like you're not building to, like you're not getting any, you're not really getting anything straight away the way you get a paycheck every week and you're making money. So it's kind of hard to be able to balance the two of them. But I was worried that I wouldn't go back to college if I did take the year out. In contrast to the two of the girls, I've actually never had anybody in my immediate family go to college. So if anything, it was probably more of me liking a challenge and wanting to be able to kind of break the stigma and show that I was, I could do it. And then it would be like additional to that would have to be my college course for the Leaving Cert. I never got the chance to study psychology. I'm more interested in, kind of figuring out why people behave the way they do in regards to the illness. Whereas, if you're touching on psychology in the Leaving Cert, you're doing biology and you're doing sort of the brain and how the brain works and stuff like that. So it was like wanting a whole new roof for my life and figuring out what I wanted to do and challenging myself.
Perfect. Thank you very much to all of you for that. So I think I'll move on to the next question that we have for you, if that's okay with yourselves. So what drew you to your particular college course in your particular college, and how did you go about considering and ruling out any other courses and colleges? So we'll do the same order, I think. So we'll move first to Kira.
Perfect. So I, as I said, I have 3 older siblings, and my dad, Tegan, would have been quite like you. He was the first in his family to go through college, and he had gone to Trinity, and then my siblings went to Trinity. And so when it came up to the Leaving Cert, everyone's like, there's no pressure to go there, but, Trinity this and Trinity that, whatever. I think it was kind of a factor of, I knew the story in Trinity. I knew living in Trinity halls, I'm from Limerick, sorry if anybody doesn't know. So I had to move away for university. So I knew the campus, I knew the student life kind of up there, through the grapevine. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, it just kind of came down to knowing that Trinity was a good university, that I had people who'd gone there, and kind of like Tegan, having a challenge and going to a new city and moving out of home, and trying to start a life up there through college, which I'm sure the girls are the same. You don't realize when you're going to college that it's going to start a whole new life for you, as well. And so thankfully that's been great. But I think that's definitely why I chose Trinity. My sister-in-law had studied Irish there and she liked the course. So it was probably word of mouth, even more so than looking stuff up online. I wish I had actually done a little bit more research into the course and the modules, which I didn't even realize you could do before you get there. Other people in my course knew, but I didn't. So that would have been something I would have done more of, had I known I could have.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'll next move to Courtney with the same question. Why did you settle on your course, and what did you do when you went about sort of considering and ruling out other options?
I remember for choosing the college, I went to every open day for every college, every university. I went to all of them. And I don't know why, but when I arrived in for the Maynooth open day, I just felt like I was at home or something. I don't know. I just felt really welcomed, and I just felt like it was a nice kind of vibe. I think a lot of the universities were so big and I was a little bit scared. So kind of, as much as Maynooth is still huge, it was kind of, a little bit smaller maybe. And I just, it was easy to get to, and I really enjoyed the open day. And then I started looking into kind of courses. So courses were completely separate to me. I was still looking at courses in other colleges. However, one thing that really struck me about my course, so I studied biological and biomedical science in Maynooth, and one thing that really struck me about my course was the options that I had in my first year. So I always loved science. However, I really had an interest in law and criminology as well. And I had looked into law courses as well because I wasn't too sure which one I wanted to which route I wanted to take. And I realized that biological and biomedical science Maynooth gave me the option to actually take criminology on as a subject in first year. So it meant that I could get my little bit of kind of criminology that I was interested in along with my science degree. So that really kind of solidified that choice for me.
Perfect, thank you. And then we'll move finally on this question to Tegan.
So mine would kind of be similar to Courtney's answer. So I would have, you know how you do your tours on campus in sixth year? I would have visited Trinity College campus when I was in fourth year when I did Bridge 21. So we were fortunate enough in Closhbury to have we were partnered with Trinity College, we were partner school, and we had a chance to do Bridge 21, which would have been, you know, you'd go in for 2 weeks, it's sort of like animation. We used to have our lunch in the dining hall. And the dining hall, for those of you that don't know, would be like our, you know, kind of old fashioned, you know, where like the scholars would eat and stuff like that in Trinity, and it's huge. And at the time I would have been like a massive Harry Potter fan. So I thought that this, when I was in fourth year, was just the best thing. So I'd have to say that I kind of fell in love with the campus when I first was introduced to it when I was in fourth year. So from then on, it was always, I want to go to Trinity College. This is where I want to be. Then when I went in sixth year, when I was brought around and I seen the likes of the museum building and stuff like that and saw the architecture, and it's just absolutely beautiful. That's when I fell in love with it. And then I was looking into, like I said, I've always wanted to study psychology. And it just happened to be that they had a perfect psychology course that suited me and what I wanted to go into. And even this year we're studying, we have to study like one module in each area. So we get like, you know, the whole lot of the course, we try each sort of pathway we can take. So it really did suit me, and I fell in love with the campus early on. So I knew I wanted to study there.
Good stuff, thank you. And I think just one question for all of you is perhaps in relation to this, is that there is obviously a big concern from students, I think, as to accommodation prices or commuting. So I'm just sort of thinking, if you could just go through and let me know, did you commute, or did you buy accommodation up near your college? And I suppose, how did you sort of make that sort of decision? What was it, a difficult one for you, or did it come rather easily? So we'll firstly start with Kira again.
Yeah, so I think I knew that I would have accommodation costs going to Dublin, and to be quite honest, it was like a difficult enough time financially, you know, and I kind of had to make that decision. I had to say, okay, this is going to be an expensive 4 years, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. And I was lucky I was eligible for the Susie grant. So while that's not a huge amount of money, it was a big help. So yeah, I lived in student accommodation for the first 2 years in Trinity Hall. And then in third and fourth year, I lived out in a house in Glasnevin with friends of mine. Again, people will know the Dublin housing crisis. There was 7 or 8 girls living in a house paying 600-700 euros. So, you know, that is definitely a big strain on people. But I think you have to, your course or going to university is like the next step in your life. And while it is going to be expensive, and I used to always be so worried about money, and I would always think, oh my God, this 20 euro, you know, when I wasn't working, oh, I don't know when I'm getting my next 20 euro. And now I'm a teacher, I'm getting my paychecks, as Tegan was talking about earlier. And I'm like, 18-year-old me was not like envisioning this, you know, I was only worried about 18-year-old me's problems, which is fair enough. But I think definitely there are ways around that. A lot of universities will have different funds and stuff for students to help with residential fees, because they can be expensive. But if possible, I wouldn't let that be a deciding factor for students, because there are ways around those things. Definitely it's hard to move away, and the girls I'm sure will have other experiences, and it's hard to move away, but it really brings you into the world of college life.
Very good, thank you. And then Courtney, did you commute or did you get accommodation?
I was actually lucky enough to not live actually that far from the college. So I was taking the bus. It was kind of handy for me because the bus wasn't too far from where I lived and it was only about a 40-minute journey. So it was actually grand. But once again, I was in a similar situation to Kira. I was eligible for Susie and that really helped because the monthly fee I was getting from Susie actually covered my bus trips for the entire month. So I got very lucky in that regard.
Okay, and then move finally to Tegan on this point. Did you commute or did you get some accommodation near to your college?
Yeah, I do. I commute to college every morning. It can be a bit of a pain, like living in Clondalkin and having to travel into town at 9 o'clock in the morning. You can imagine the traffic. But to be honest, I think it's kind of like you can still get a lot from it. Like I enjoy the bus journey into town now and home because I get a chance to say like read my novel or catch up on notes that I would have taken in the lecture and stuff like that. So I do think it can be beneficial, even though, you know, you have to pull yourself out of bed in the morning and you're not looking forward to sitting on a bus for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. But it can be beneficial. I think it's just kind of what you make of it. So yeah.
Very good. That's perfect. Thank you all. So what I'm getting from the first two questions or the first three questions, I suppose, is that I've asked you is that in terms of like choosing to go to college, it seems that if you were like if surrounded by people who went to college or if you had ever got the chance to chat to somebody who did, and that maybe played a part, and also maybe considering your future progression. So I think those are important points to put in mind. If you have an idea in your head for the students who are watching as to what you want to do in future, and you know, I think it's important to consider whether you need to go to college in order to do that. And if you have the opportunity to talk to friends, family who have gone to college before or who are in college, then I think that's a good idea as well, because I think that both of those things have sort of influenced our speakers in their decision to sort of go and do that. And also as Tegan and Kira pointed out, the long-term benefits of I suppose in terms of pay, that's true as well. And then with regards to college courses, I think and choosing, I think the idea is to research your course in advance, use the various college websites, and I think as well if you can move up to college campuses and have a look at the sort of the various features on each of the campuses if you get a chance. And I just added the accommodation and commuting point. I think there are drawbacks and benefits to both, it seems, from our speakers, but I think you do get supports for certain accommodation supports in certain campuses, as we've learned. And I think even for commuting, you can sometimes avail of things like the student leap card, which might make that a little bit easier day to day. So I'm going to ask a final question to our speakers today, and that is, what advice would you have for students in 5th and 6th year who need to balance both study and looking at college options? So we'll go back to Kira.
So mine would be, the first thing I always say to my mentees is do your homework. That's the first thing before any of your studying everything. And when looking at courses, don't think of it as a chore. It shouldn't be a chore. You should just reading it for the sake of reading it. Soak up the information that you can get. I think Careers Portal is a good website. I remember and I'm sure there's others that you can look up. Even just Google Trinity College or University of Limerick or Limerick. Google them, see what's there. Gavin was saying there about looking at campuses, see what they have on offer. I think I said I definitely wish I had done a little research on my course and the modules, and I think if I had done that and had compared it to other universities, I might have chosen different. Very happy with my choice now, but in first year when I was studying old Irish poetry, I wasn't so happy about it. But I think definitely don't think of it as a chore. Try and take a little bit of time during the week. If you need a study break, be like, right, I'll go online, take a look at the courses. And what Gavin said as well there, it's about, you have to think what you want in the future. I think definitely thinking about where you want to be, what you need to do to get there. Like as Courtney was saying, she needed to study science to get into science. So that's something you have to do. To be a teacher, I had to study and I had to go to university. Think about what you want, and think about 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, what you'd like to see in your life, and how you can get there. And college is just a stepping stone in that. It's a big stepping stone. As Tegan said, it's 4 years of, but it all pays off. And yeah, just think about it like really big decision. It doesn't have to be a scary decision, but a big decision, and it's so exciting. It's such an exciting time to be choosing what you want to study, where you want to study, so yeah, or how you want to study. I think online university now will become a big thing too, that people, if they're not, you know, financial to move away, there's options like the Open University online, and people should be looking into all the different ways that we could study. But that's my advice: just do your research on your courses and compare.
Perfect. I like the idea. I'm sure many of the students who are going to tune into this will understand they're very busy people at the moment, studying for exams and assessments and so on. And I think I like the idea of setting aside for as part of a break from study, the idea of looking into colleges, because I think, as you say, it is an exciting. I think some people some students are perhaps a little apprehensive about it, but I think ultimately looking at different courses in colleges is an exciting time. So I like that idea quite a lot. I'll move to Courtney. What advice would you have for students who need to balance both their studies and potentially looking into college options?
Funny enough, I actually want to elaborate on one of Kira's points. Kira made a good point there about doing homework, and I agree that's really important. However, what I would say is you could nearly use your homework as a guide as to maybe the things that you like. So as in, if you are doing homework in a certain subject and you feel really energized afterwards, that might be the route for you. That might be a topic you want to follow up with. If you feel really drained after a certain subject, you're not going to want to do that for the rest of your life. So stay away, I think that's kind of an important kind of guide towards maybe the type of course you might like. And I'm not saying like if you feel great doing biology homework to go into biology, but I think that kind of does provide a bit of a guide, and obviously is a good way to kind of balance like your study and your research as well, because you can research nearly as you're studying. And the other thing I would say as well would be to attend open days. Like, I know that a lot of them are online now, but I think attending the open days is a good way to kind of step away from study and, go online and watch an open video or attend a campus and see kind of what there is to offer. Because as I said, that was a big factor in how I decided what college I wanted to attend. If I hadn't gone to the open days, I could have chose a completely different course. And as much as I loved a lot of the colleges I went to, I just got a different feeling when I went to Maynooth. And I think everyone has that feeling when they go to the open days and are trying to decide on a college. So that would be probably the best advice I could give.
Perfect. I do like the idea of letting homework influence you a little bit in terms of it might narrow down your passions, and that way that students can sort of save time by using their homework time as potentially college research time as well. So I'll finally move to Tegan on this question. So Tegan, what advice would you have?
I have to completely agree with the girls when it comes to homework. It can definitely, because even like I said earlier on, psychology is not something that you study for the Leaving Cert, but I was very interested in biology, and it would have been my biology teacher when I was in 6th year that would have pushed me towards looking into psychology, because she had mentioned that I love like looking at the brain and the nervous system and stuff like that. But whereas when I would sit and I own biology, I'd never expect that I would be studying something so close to the Leaving Cert, even though it's a completely different course in college, if you know what I mean. So I would have to say that homework is a big thing. I would have to say that exam papers are a huge thing as well when you're in 5th and 6th year. It was hard for me when I was in 6th year to kind of separate homework from studying. So if I had a couple of hours homework to do in the evening, I would feel bad not having time to study without actually realizing, it's the same thing. What you're doing homework on, you will be, reciting in the Leaving Cert, you will be going over it for the Leaving Cert, you will be like, it does benefit you definitely, especially the exam papers. And then when it comes to balancing, I would definitely agree with going and visiting as many colleges as you can, especially if you know anybody in them colleges. I know Trinity, you're allowed, there's a lot of tourists in Trinity, so you're allowed to go in, have a look around. You don't necessarily need to go into the lecture halls or go into the classrooms or anything like that. Just get a kind of feel for the place. And definitely use the likes of Careers Portal and Qualifax as much as you can. And it's also really important to kind of be excited when you're researching your college course. It's very hard getting a feel for something you've never experienced. But I have to say, college is completely different to secondary school, completely different. You are almost deciding what you study. You are able to be excited about it because, this is what you're interested in. This is what you've chosen. This is what you want to work towards. So it is a completely different feeling from working towards the Leaving Cert, because you know you're in control and you've chosen where you want to go. And I think that that's very, very important as well.
Thanks very much, Tegan. I think you raised some great, well, you all raised great points, but I think, Tegan, just touching on something, a couple of things you said. I think firstly, act within public health advice, but the idea that you can visit a campus without necessarily going to an open day is something I think that's important for our viewers to sort of tune into. It is possible to go and as Courtney pointed out, you know, she fell in love with Maynooth as soon as she arrived and got a feel for the campus. I think a lot of college students, you know, regardless of the institution they end up in, would feel similar. So do, if you get a chance and if it's safe to do so, visit a college, even if they're, you know, it's you know, they're not running an open day per se, because you will get an idea of the surroundings and the campus. So I think, you know, that is a good piece of advice that we can give. I also think the idea of, you know, maybe linking in with some of the teachers, maybe that was another thing that you said. If you work closely with the teacher in the school, and, you know, it might be worth asking them sort of, you know, well, what do you think? Now, I think ultimately it's your call, guys. I think that you should, you know, you should really make this decision yourself, but it would be useful maybe to talk to teachers to sort of say, well, you know, what do you think about this course if this is my career? Yeah.
Can I just make one point on that? And I think, yeah, definitely, guys, talk to your teachers. A lot of our teachers in school would have actually done a degree. We'll say it's a science teacher. They might have a full degree in biology or chemistry. They all had big interests as well. And they'll, like Tegan, you were saying about your teacher who recognized in you that you really like studying the brain, that your teachers are there to help you. They'll know what you like, and they might have other information or whatever. So yeah, just adding to that, Gavin, which is so true.
Exactly. Like, I mean, the people in your school are qualified, and they went through their own route, and they went through the same sort of considerations as you guys are facing at the moment. So it's worth linking in with them anyway and seeing what they have to say. Just the same as it is, as we pointed out, linking in with anybody who might have went to college in your family or any of your friends beforehand. And then I think the final point I would just add on this is that I think that there's sometimes a tendency to maybe leave the college looking and the college search a little bit later in 6th year or in 5th year, and just sort of focusing on the study for now. I think I would just you know, on top of what our mentors have said, and I would say, and on top of that, it's actually probably better to do it early, because I don't know if Courtney, Ciara, and Tegan would agree with me, but I think that in general, if you sort of settle on a course early enough, or at least a couple of courses, and you get a sense of the points and everything like that, that can almost be a motivating factor for your studies. So you might have an idea, okay, well, listen, I need to get 460 points. So I'm going to work my hardest in order to get that. So I don't know if you guys would agree, but I think that might be an important thing for our students to be aware of as well.
Definitely.
Perfect. Yeah. So listen, guys, I'll end it here. Thank you very much to Ciara, Courtney, and Tegan. Ciara, Courtney, and Tegan are just 3 of our fantastic mentors here at Innumeris Education, who basically take a group of mentees or students under their wing for the academic year and provide them structured advice on how to study, college applications, here, there, for example, Tegan with the Trinity Access Program, and so on and so forth. And they're really a relatable figure to guide a student through 5th and 6th year, and to sort of make that journey a little bit easier. So I would definitely encourage you to check out our website, innumeris.com, and to check out our social medias as well. Because and see what our program has to offer. But I would just like to thank you, Ciara, Courtney, and Tegan, for taking the time out once again to mark College Awareness Week, and to everybody watching from, well, I suppose we're all watching from home, but to everybody watching this video, I hope that you enjoyed it, and please let us know by email, innumeris2020@gmail.com, if you have any questions, and we'll endeavor to get back to you as soon as possible. So thanks again, folks, and I hope you have a good College Awareness Week.